It was Venetia. "I thought I'd never get past that crusty old curate you keep." "He's not my curate. He's my colleague at the healing centre." "Well, chain him up somewhere. I can't bear misogynists. Now, darling, I know you were terribly sweet and madly keen that I should visit you for a little professional chat, but—" "You've got cold feet." "Slightly shivery, yes. When I awoke this morning, I began to wonder if a healing centre was really quite my scene, and nobody's asking you to fall in love with it. Just think of it as a backdrop. I'm the scene." "Oh, yes, lovely, simply too thrilling. But I can't bear that word, counselling. Quite ruined by the 1980s. All those wild-eyed social workers descending like vultures on disaster victims." "I'm neither wild-eyed nor a social worker, nor a vulture, and I'm not going to counsel. I'm going to listen." "Oh, but I shall make a mess of talking. I make a mess of everything. I shall wind up totally speechless." "Fine. Then we can sit in silence and soak up the vibes." "Soak up the vibes? Oh, Nick, how that phrase takes me back. Do you know it's 20 years now, 20 years, since you came to see me about Christian? That mysterious quest of yours. You never did tell me the whole story, did you?" "Whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent." "No, don't try to wriggle off the hook by quoting Wittgenstein. Look, let's forget my visit to the healing centre. Come and dine with me instead and tell me exactly what happened in 1968. I always found that official version curiously unsatisfactory."
I realised it was time to take a firm line. "Sorry," I said, "but I don't dine out during the week, and I've no intention of forgetting your promise to visit the healing centre. I'll see you on Thursday at 11 as we arranged yesterday in Starbridge."
"My dear, how masterful! Why is it I always find you so utterly impossible to resist?"
said Venetia crossly, and hung up. Turning my back on the phone, I found that my colleague had made the tea for me. "That's the only woman I've ever met," I said, sitting down opposite him at the kitchen table, "who can instantly recognise a quotation from Wittgenstein." "She sounds extremely dangerous. Do be careful, Nicholas." I smiled at him, then I drank my tea, stared into space and mentally turned back the clock to 1968. That demonic year when I had become so obsessed by Christian Aysgarth. 2. For most of 1968 I was 25. My 26th birthday fell on Christmas Eve. Buried in that first quarter-century of my life were the time bombs which exploded in 1968. Or perhaps it would be more accurate, though less colourful, to write, weaving through those first 25 years were the paths which eventually converged to lead me into the Christian Aysgarth mystery. The first path followed my convoluted relationship with my father. The second path followed my disastrous career as a psychic. And the third path followed my friendship with Marina Markhampton. By 1968, all three paths were running side by side. In fact, they had become a 3-lane motorway where the words "to hell" came up on all the signboards. But in the beginning, hell was a long way off, and path number 1 led through the idyllic landscape of my childhood. I was brought up in the country near the city of Starbridge, where my father worked at the theological college in the Cathedral Close. When I was still in the nursery, he had been appointed principal, but he had not been required to live on the premises, and I can remember watching him ride off on his bicycle to the station, where he would take the train to Starbridge, 12 miles away. If the weather was wet, my mother insisted on giving him a lift in the Rolls, but he preferred to be independent. Born in the last century, he had never learnt to drive, and he regarded travelling by Rolls-Royce as an inexcusable luxury for a priest. But then he became busier as